Everybody doing today? See a bunch of beautiful people in here. All right. So, welcome to this lovely event. My name is Elijah Davis, and so I asked y'all how y'all doing. So, how the Warriors fan doing right now? All right, awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm ready to kick some Clipper butt tonight. So, let's do it. Can't wait. So, but anyways, like I said, my name is Elijah Davis. I'm a volunteer and policy builder for Oakland Youth Policy Builders, a program of Pueblo. And so let me tell you about Pueblo first. So Pueblo is a multi-issue community membership located in East Oakland. Its mission is to advocate for needs of low-income residents of Oakland, most of them people of color, through grassroots organizing, offering leadership, and initiating policy reforms. Do you understand me? All right, cool. I'm really nervous right now. So I'm gonna tell you about OYPB too, if you don't mind. So if I can find it. So anyway, so Oakland Youth Policy Builders is a program. Well, I already said that, but its mission is to improve the relationship between the youth and policymakers, I guess, who the people who make the rules or the laws. So yeah, we want to improve on that, and all right. So we're here today to hear Dr. Rios' Uncovering Grit Through Restorative Justice, the School to Prison Pipeline, and the Power of Transformation. So that's why we're here today. So we want to start the day off with a performance by the youth from Bay Peace.
That one work?
It's not loud.
Okay. Um, I don't really have a name for it, so. Alright. Crime chasing, money getting, and weed smoking. I ain't got no dreams, so I just keep running. Hoping no one catches me because while it may be true that red, white, and blue represent freedom, it's not all true when you're a person of color and see them lights flashing behind you. Because now I'm fucked, off to jail, just because they saw me running. But they don't know why I was running or who from. I was running from them. They scared me. All them stories I've heard, they sent my father away. I was only a kid, away from murder, they said. He didn't do it, but that doesn't matter in the court of law when you're a brother, just what they can catch you on. See, it was self-defense. The cop shot at him first. He was just sitting there alone, knowledge in his eyes, and a white man can't stand that. And a white man with power don't have to because they'll kill that. Cop pulls his gun out. My dad saw the hate in his eyes, and he knew if he didn't hit back, he'd be gone. No longer seeing the growth in my life, so he took the shot. But really, can you blame him? White people put us like this against a wall. They say they're trying to help. Some of y'all don't even try to lie because no, because no one will punish you anyway. They'll say it's self-defense and everyone will believe him, just like they believe God sent them to the earth and the devil is inside us. And they're the ones supposed to change that because they're prophets, right? And it says that right after Galatians 3:28, where it clearly says, "For all of you are one in Jesus." Thank you.
This is the right mic? Oh, yeah, okay. All right. Beautiful poem, by the way. So, oh, we got another one? Oh, I'm sorry.
Cool, cool. How y'all feeling? Y'all just clapped. I just asked how y'all feeling. And now y'all laughing. How y'all feeling? Y'all gotta make a little more noise than that. I mean, come on. How are y'all feeling? That's what I'm talking about. I'm feeling good too. It's good to know that y'all are feeling good. So my name's Tila Quinn. I work with Bay Peace, and so I'm gonna spit a poem for y'all today, if that's cool. And this poem is about Oakland. How many folks live in Oakland? Good, good. I hope y'all enjoy. My streets carry peace, like bees bringing honey back to their queen. We wear peace like straitjackets. We just haven't found the correct release yet, so you find that we incorrectly jacket with the piece tucked straight between our belts and we still be sagging. My community is in constant struggle with the beast. You call it money, we call it necessity. It got my streets fighting for green while drawing blood, so red must be the new green so you can see it engraved in the pavement of my hood. Now my hood is Oakland. And in Oakland, we are born with scars like birthmarks. Scars born onto our backs from long whips being lashed, leaving X's to mark the spot for future lashes. We're being shot from the back, just running from where the past has left us trapped within these boxes. So now we boxing back, trying to leave the box behind our backs, but boxing creates more boxes in my hood. We're confused. And so we metaphorically box each other with black on black Glocks to commit black on black violence over blocks, and the innocent get shot. Now, I sometimes wish bullets didn't fly straight. It seems aim is never straight, cocking chambers with secrets to take innocent lives, competing against the dangers of the streets. Now, they can relate to feeling unsafe and unknowingly seeking the reaper to fake death, so the real killers won't reap them and just place those thoughts to the left. Now, I've always wanted curving bullets. For once, they might actually hit their targets. But in spite of all the violence, my hood was founded by Panthers, who gave birth to a new breed of revolutionaries we call Oaklanders. Now our oak trees are gone, but the energy still resonates with youth like me, so we can return to our roots to give life to new seeds, and one day we'll find Oakland trees sprout from the concrete, revitalizing every piece of our history we may have lost, and repeat it to the historically lost to cover the historical cost of ignorance. And we will do this until we all can carry our peace like honeybees and take that sweet nectar back to our community. Thank y'all so much.
Let's give another round of applause for Bay Peace. So, so next up, I want to introduce Tony Shaver. Come on. Relax, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Tony Shavers. I'm a part of a program called Project What that raises awareness about parental incarceration. And this afternoon, I'm going to perform a poem that I wrote about my incarcerated father, who is serving 7 years at San Quentin. So bear with me. This poem is called I Remember. I remember the times we were together before prison became a new home away from me. Can vividly paint the mural of us at the Oakland Zoo as you smoked in front of the monkeys. And I cried my eyes out because I thought you were going to kill them. Dad. I remember walking to Martin Luther King Elementary School, not knowing that I would turn around and wave bye to you as you injected needles into your corpse. You appeared dead to me that day. Smoke clouds enclosed the vehicle. I stood there, hoping that maybe God could breathe air back into your lungs, resuscitate your body, hopefully getting you to sit up straighter and acknowledge your son who stood before you. Dad, if I could feel your kiss on my forehead, or the last bear hug of your arms wrapped around your firstborn son, maybe then I could get it feeling what it felt like to have a relationship with you, Dad. It's sad that the fathers on TV bonding with your children is the only way that I feel closer to you. That the mural that hangs above my headboard is the only way physically I can see your face. Dad, I've been raised by strong black women all my life. Never could let a man play the leading role because you were already casted when I took on the third generation of your name. By law, it should state, if you have sex with a woman, have their baby, then both of you play the leading roles. My play didn't end with the happily ever after like TV makes it seem. My mother has been casted as the father to myself and my two brothers. Dad, how can I trust you again? Form these stars back into perfect alignment like they used to. Mend the broken heart and fix the unsolved puzzle that still resides where we left it, still in the box. And the wrapping paper that it came in. Dad, my eyes shouldn't have seen so many men in orange jumpsuits at the age of 6. All I ask is that you get yourself together. That you don't allow society to hold you hostage again. Stand on your own 2 feet this time. Walk with confidence. And if anything, know this. I love you. But I don't like what you're doing to yourself. See you when I reach 26. Thank you.
So, next up, I want to introduce a city council member born and raised in Oakland. He attended St. Elizabeth High School and graduated from UC Berkeley with a business degree. And he can often be seen cleaning up with the community, doing a great job, by the way. He believes an efficient city government is key or is essential to economic growth, a well-managed, functional city. I'm sorry. But introducing Noel Gaio.
Buenas tardes. It's great to be alive and to be living in this itty-bitty city we know as Oakland, California. Isn't this a beautiful city? You know what? I grew up in this city and did the Hawthorns, and it used to be Hamilton at those days, right? But now it's Calvin Simmons, United for Success, and had an opportunity to attend St. Elizabeth. At that time, the Catholic schools were recruiting us out of the middle schools to attend their high schools, as they still do at Bishop O'Dowd and some other schools. But anyways, I'm really honored to be here, and thanks to Pueblo for the invitation. But before I introduce the guest speaker, I think we have to recognize we're in a real special place. For me, this is perhaps the most sacred place there is on the planet. When you visit a school, when you visit whether it's an elementary, high school, or university level, it's a super special place because not only is it for our family, but in our American society, in this country, we are judged and valued by the number of degrees we have. You have your high school diploma, well, pretty cool. You know, you can get to some places. You have your university degree, well, you must know something. You get your PhD like the doctor has, well, you must be super smart. Right? But I think that the reason I say that, because you look at this gymnasium at Castlemont High School in East Oakland, I really want to thank those that, like Agnes, that live in Oakland, continue to be here in Oakland. and are paying your taxes to make sure that we have these schools. Because through you, your neighbors and yourselves were able to pay what they call a Measure B fund, a bond that made this available. We rebuilt Castlemont School. We rebuilt Tech. We rebuilt Oakland High School. We rebuilt McClymonds. And we're about to invest $100 million to rebuild Fremont High School from the ground all the way up. And I want to publicly thank you for that. And because in this city, young people, in this city, we have a school on just about every block. All you got to do is get up, show up, do your work, listen to your teachers, do your work, and it'll open up a great deal of doors for us. So I just need to thank our residents, our citizens that vote and made this possible. And really, I value that kind of support because I'll tell you, we even have a swimming pool at Castlemont. You know that? Because we used to complain that we couldn't swim. But we have a brand new, I don't think we use it. You go to McClymonds School. You ever see McClymonds swimming pool? It's just an empty hole on the floor, on the ground. Nobody ever uses it. But so we got to take advantage of what the voters have given us, and they've given us a great deal. But we just have to value what we have, use it, and establish a discipline. But anyways, I'm here. I'm honored to introduce Dr. Rios. Dr. Rios grew up here in East Oakland. Went to Highland Elementary School. Everybody knows where Highland is, right down the street. Went to Elmhurst Middle School. And I don't know how you wound up at McClymonds, but he went to McClymonds High School. And he said he didn't last too long at McClymonds, and he went on to Berkeley. Then he went on to Cal State Hayward, received his undergraduate degree. Then he went on to where I went, and a good number of all of us went to UC Berkeley. And he received his doctorate degree. And currently, he's a professor at the University of Santa Clara. And outstanding, so we got to recognize and applaud you for your work. So let's give him a big applause. Dr. Rios. He's written this book, and he's written a good number of books, and I'm sure he's going to make them available to those of us that are here. But let me just read the back of the book, because he exemplifies what we all grew up in this city, in East Oakland. For those of us that grew up in this area or on the 23rd Avenues where I grew up at, we clearly can identify with his background. He says here, he encountered growing up poor, fatherless, in a gang, incarcerated, dropped out, and without hope. His riveting and heartbreaking story teaches us all about the power of dreams, beliefs, and mentoring in his life of marginalized young people. He reflects on his own personal transformation and discusses how his success of returning to school, going to college, and acquiring a PhD can be replicated by young people with the support of teachers, mentors, and this super special group we know as parents. And his story is like many of us' story. I was born to a 16-year-old mom. I never knew who my dad was. You know what? I was very lucky to have a grandmother. And so I was brought up by my grandmother. I grew up with a family of 2 brothers and a sister. One of my brothers, right there in front of Fremont High School, he chose to get involved in what we call challenging. Some of us will call making poor choices, let's call it at that. You know, at the age of 18, he shot some kid on the head right in front of Fremont High School over a broken stereo. My sister, younger sister, well, she got caught up out of Fremont High School with all the drug scene and so forth. But one of the things that I was very fortunate is to have a grandmother. And my grandmother always taught me, and I never forgot it. She said, it's not what you say, it's what you do and how you do it. But she also always said, Noel, don't you let anyone ever tell you that you're poor. Because the minute you start believing that you're poor, you start thinking poor, acting poor, and behaving poor. God gave you the intelligence and the abilities that anyone else has. You just need the tools and the information to get ahead. And that's why you got to get up and go to school. And I think this is what this country offers us if we're taking advantage of that. We all can get PhDs and be at the place of Dr. Rios is, but it requires a discipline and hard work. And but with that, I'm so honored to have Dr. Rios here with us to not only reflect on how his development, but also to give us words of hope and encouragement so we can rise to the next level, because I believe Oakland's going to be a great city. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very honored. It feels good to be home. The last couple months I've been in Chicago twice, Pennsylvania, UCLA, Irvine. Been to a lot of places, and I show up and I do it Oakland style. I just show up and handle my business. But when I'm home in Oakland, it's like showing up to your house and you're trying to put up this identity that you have on the outside, but in reality, you just need to recognize that you're just a child in the household and that you need to bow down to the powers that be. And so when I'm in Oakland, I'm very humbled because you are the powers that be. You are the service providers that are on the ground day to day working with the youth. You are the young people with those beautiful struggles that continue day to day to show grit, resilience, and adversity, and overcoming that adversity. You are those teachers that get piled on a bunch of students that all need support, and you struggle, but somehow you get through your day, and somehow you manage to teach us. Some of you criminalize us, but most of you teach us. So I'm very honored to be here. Let me see, but show of hands. Teachers, raise your hand. How many teachers I got in here? Nice. Ooh, let's give it up for the teachers. All right. Students, how many students? High school students. All right, nice. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Do I got middle school students up in here? Yeah, represent. Youth organizers. Where's my youth organizers at? All right. Service providers, youth programs, et cetera. All right, wonderful. How about members of my family? Raise your hand if you're a member of my family. Where's the Rios at? I do have a member. Okay, so my mom made birria today. And my little niece, who's a UC Berkeley student, we have combined, my niece and I, we have about 100 cousins and uncles and nephews that are all like our age or younger, my age or younger. And out of those 100 or so, about 5 of us have college degrees. And so it's important for us to support her, right, to get through. So this summer she's going off to study abroad, and she's going to go do a summer program for research in the East Coast. So anyway, today, everyone's throwing a cooperacha, right? So like everyone's going to show up. My mom made birria, and people are going to, give her some money to help her out with her trip and her studies. It's in West Oakland, the lower bottom, former headquarters of the Black Panther Party, at my Tío Vicente's house. And that's how we roll in Oakland, right? This was the headquarters of the Black Panther Party. My uncle didn't know. He bought the house. And then they would do the bus tour every year, stop in front of his house. And he'd be in the front drinking a Bud Light. Hey, can we go in there? And they had a little tunnel. And they had Huey P. Newton's wicker chair. Can we take it? Yeah, llévesela. No hay problema. Yo sé qué es eso. Right? When I was growing up over here at 88th and D Street, I was, like 8, 9 years old, and I saw a procession. I didn't know what it was. they were holding up a casket. And they were walking down the street. And they were chanting, "Long live Huey P. African people will be free." And I'm on my bicycle, and I tag along. I don't have a clue what I'm doing, but I remember that chant to this day. Huey P's procession. The guys that brought me up in the streets of Oakland, the older guys, they were former Black Panthers. That's how we roll in Oakland, right? This is the connections we make with each other as different peoples. And so nowadays, right, today I'll talk a little bit about restorative justice, but nowadays it's like the hot topic, right? District administrators, restorative justice, restorative justice. National Institute of Justice, restorative justice, restorative justice. Obama, restorative justice. You know where restorative justice came from? You all know where it came from because I'm preaching to the choir. It's an indigenous philosophy. For millennia, different cultures throughout the globe practice restorative justice. But all of a sudden, it's like the hot thing to do, right? And so it's being co-opted. It's being co-opted by the system. But there is hope. We have people like Fania Davis, who's doing great work. George Galvez and Courage, and many, many more people, right, that are doing amazing work in Oakland and in the Bay Area to really, change the way we look at young people. And I'll talk about that in my presentation. There's my older brother right there who actually raised me. Now he's bringing his children in. Hey, bro. At age 15, he went to work full time to provide for the family. And he finished his high school diploma even though he was working full time. Yeah. And he's never stopped working. He's never stopped working. And it's a beautiful thing, right, that we find ways to survive. And I'll talk a little bit about that today, too. So I was going to tell you a too short story, but I'll save that for another time. So can we get the screen down, please? Can we get the PowerPoint wound up, please? Well, meanwhile, I guess I'll tell you the too short story. So my mom used to send us to the store on 88th to go buy tortillas. And she gave me money, and then I would stop by the East Bay Dragon spot, the motorcycle club, and there was a guy rapping in there, a young guy. I was little, and he was saying a lot of bad words. And, I kind of got into it, and it's like, and then eventually they started selling little tapes, cassette tapes out of there. So I spent the tortilla money on a cassette tape. Too short cassette tape. I ended up getting a good whooping. And my mom had this belt, el cinturón de la víbora, the snake belt. And every time she hit you with it, it would leave a big snake mark printed on your culo, man. So back to the topic at hand. Grit. What does it mean to have grit? Oh, there's my sister-in-law. I better stop cussing. Hi, Rana. Rana also raised me. She's definitely been a big influence during my adolescence when I was getting in trouble. So for me, right, seeing how people survive and taking that survival and then teaching these young people how they can use those same survival skills in different contexts. So when this young man gives this beautiful poem, right, about already having sort of a factor of resilience, right, carrying those pieces of change, and we just get confused and we end up with a piece in our, waist. He said it more eloquently, right? We're just sort of, the system has ways of confusing us about how we prove our adulthood or our manhood or our worthiness in society because we've been systematically stripped of our dignity over time from very young ages. And I find that among some of the young men in my studies. So before I continue, I'll show you a couple short clips of some of the work we've been doing.
Now, another in our series on the nation's high school dropout crisis. Tonight, one man's journey from gang member and dropout to professor, and his efforts to keep other young men from making his mistakes. Bryce Forrest has our American graduate story.
My name is Rios. In 1994, this was me. I was introduced to the nation in Frontline Documentary. I was a gang member, a juvenile delinquent, and a high school dropout.
But in the 18 years that followed, Victor Rios earned his high school diploma, finished college, earned a PhD from the University of California at Berkeley, and wrote 2 books of his life and his research on juvenile delinquency. He now teaches sociology at UC Santa Barbara and helps at-risk youth navigate the perils of adolescence. Rios is also a family man with a wife, Rebecca, and 3 children. Life is constantly busy.
To be this far into the future, I feel like I've lived that time.
Keep that theme in mind, right? 2 lifetimes. Keep that idea in mind. Is it possible, right, for people to live 2 lifetimes?
His duties as a college professor and high school researcher, all the while studying and mentoring at-risk young men in Santa Barbara.
My name is Miguel. I'm 19 years old. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara, and I've been labeled as a gang member down here. If I hadn't met up to Rios, I honestly think I would have probably been in jail.
Miguel asked us not to use his last name. We first met Professor Rios about 2 years ago when he took part in a sociology study.
I felt like I can relate to him. Like, so he knew what we were about, you know? And he knew where we come from. He knows how to come at us, you know? Or what level of respect to come at us.
Miguel's 2 older brothers were in gangs. He had his first interaction with the juvenile justice system at the age of 12 after he stole a bike. Miguel never really liked going to class and eventually left school for good without a high school diploma. Now that he's joined Rios' program, Miguel now aims to complete his GED and hopes to one day become a mechanic.
I've seen Miguel grow over the last couple of years. I've seen him become a leader in the community.
Miguel knows he's still a work in progress.
I mean, it's not gonna go to sleep, you know? The devil one night and wake up the next day, I have with me, you know? I mean, everyone's got to to change for the better, you know? I'm still young, so got a lot of work to change.
And he's encouraging others to do the same. Miguel is now helping his friend Hector, a 15-year-old sophomore, avoid the mistakes he made.
He's had my back, I've had his back, like, helping out a lot, encouraging me, helping me finish school, just get it over with, help me out in the future, and I trust him.
It's a pay-it-forward strategy that Victor Rios, gang member turned university professor, still can't believe he put in motion.
During the time I was on the street as a teenager, someone approached me, an angel came to me and said, hey, hang in there, man, because when you're 34, you're going to have a beautiful family, a wonderful household, a great job, you're going to be a PhD from Berkeley, you're going to have written 2 books, and you'll be an award-winning professor. I would have laughed. Now it's my job to let them know that it's not a joke, to let them know that I believe in them the way that my teacher believed in me, to let them know that there are circumstances.
Rios is now working on a book that's examining the achievement gap at Santa Barbara High School.
Our next story profiles a photographer.
So, 2 lifetimes, right? Oh, and by the way, there's a couple of my students from UC Santa Barbara that are here today that helped out with the project and were instrumental in helping to mentor some of the young men. Miroslava and Amy, so thank you for your help that you did. Um, but, my first book, Punished, was in Oakland. I followed the young man in Oakland. And actually, one of the young men that's in the book, right, when I met him, I'll save, I won't spoil it because you have to read this part. But when I met him, people were after him. I mean, he had stories about people doing crazy things to his house to try to get him. Remember that? And today he's a PhD student at the Wright Institute. Is that right? At the Wright Institute in psychology. There he is. He has a beautiful family now. Family man is getting into politics in Oakland. It's going to take us to change us, right? And so, Randy, thanks for everything you've done for me and for yourself, man, for your community. Yeah. So this whole idea, right, of 2 lifetimes is an important concept, right? It's about second chances. Restorative justice, there's a lot of talk, and some people do it really, really well, and some people, like I said, sort of just co-opt it as a Band-Aid approach. So we have to be critical, right, of what approaches are working and what approaches we need to make sure to address, right? Systematic approaches are important. And I'll get into what that means for me. All right. So here in this image, I have a cop dragging me out of, school. And then here in this image, there's an administrator patting the cop in the back. He's congratulating him because now as, gang fight in school under zero tolerance rules, you pretty much get expelled from school. So I was, pretty much about to be expelled. And this is part of a larger system, right, that in the last 30 years we've changed our discipline policies. That's my nephew, so I guess family is here present today, I guess. And so anyway, so we've changed our discipline policies to bring in more police officers, more policing, more surveillance to our schools. Some of us might say, well, that's to protect the students. But in reality, when we see sort of the blending in of policing tactics, policing strategies, policing resources into educational institutions and youth development institutions, it becomes problematic because police officers are not trained to properly help young people out. They're trained to apprehend suspects, right? And so this is a crisis in Oakland that I found and punished, but it's a crisis throughout the country when dealing with inner city young people. So are these young men at promise or are they at risk? Raise your hand if they're at promise. Yeah. Raise your hand if they're at risk. You guys are too liberal. Both? You guys are too liberal. Anybody watching the news tonight, KTVU, and this picture pops up, young man, 14-year-old, has a Hennessy bottle in his hand. One of them has a blunt in his mouth. Are they at promise or are they at risk? If you're watching the news, you're an everyday Bay Arean, they're at risk. And that becomes a problem because how many of us work for a program, have been part of the program, been in a program, heard people talk about programs for at-risk youth? Raise your hand. Right? That becomes a problem because what you label someone determines how you'll treat them. So if you label someone as a risk, you're going to treat them as a risk. And what do we do with risk risky populations in our society today? Put a camera on them. What else? Isolate. How do we isolate them? Jail. Jail. We get rid of them. Right? And we, good intentioned people, are part of the process when we're talking about these young people as risks, as at risk. So in order to solve the problem, we have to even check the way we do language and the way we label people. So we invest too much on punishments and not enough on purpose and rewards. That's what restorative justice is, right? To invest in purpose, giving people a purpose or a reward, right? For leading a positive trajectory. And there's a crisis in our country. 1 out of every 3 young black men in America are either incarcerated or under the criminal justice system, under supervision of the criminal justice system. And did you know that in the state of California there are 22,000 college-age black men in college and 44,000 college-age black men in prison? Twice as many in prison than there are in college. That's a crisis. And it's because of the way we've decided to treat, right, to rehabilitate our young people on the margins. Right? 2.2 million people are locked up in America. Half of them are African American. African Americans make up 14% of the total U.S. population. It's a crisis. Latinos are sandwiched in between, right? Not too far behind. African Americans, not as drastically impacted by incarceration, though. And we have to acknowledge that. So, for the first time in the history of the state of California, we invest more on prisons than we do on higher public education. Look at this. Used to be that we spent that much of the general funds on higher ed. Now we spend that much. Used to be we spent that much on prisons. Now we spend that much. So our priorities have changed. Politicians have built careers around cracking down on crime. And unfortunately, we've bought into that fear of crime, voted for them, voted for their policies. And before we know it, it comes back and bites us in the behind, because now we have exorbitant college loans. Our kids can't get to college. Affirmative action is banned because people get resentful that there's some small programs, because there's not enough room for everyone. And it's not because we're taking over the system, it's because the system has just completely begun to collapse because we're spending more money somewhere else, in prisons. So this would be a healthy model here, right? And we could have debates about this. But this is what a healthy model would look like. We need lots of prevention, right? We need to be able to talk to little preschoolers about life skills and resilience and grit, right? And we need intervention, right? And that's like intervening in the lives of young people that are caught up on the streets, that are not doing well in school. At-prom is young people, right? And then some would argue we need some suppression for that 3% of that population that's out there committing the violence. Right? What that suppression look like, we could debate it. But we need some suppression. Right? And that's what I found in Punish, that the police in Oakland were so busy catching the little fish, harassing the kids in front of the liquor stores, that they were letting the shark get away, which was some of the shot callers hiding in the backdrop, right? And the community knows who those shot callers are. But somehow it's the kids being dragged away for smoking weed, you know, small offenses, we need to address that. That's a crisis, it's substance abuse, but we have to do it in the right way. And so we've kind of cracked down through suppression, 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 suppression. So this is what Punish looked at. What does it mean to grow up in a time where we invest more on prisons than we do on education? I mean, now I'm doing education studies and I'm at the schools and I'm asking that about teachers. Like, what happens when you underfund teachers? We're over here blaming the teachers. Hold them accountable. Evaluate them. Take their tenure away. And it's like, really? We're not funding them. We're not educating them. We're not resourcing them. And we're trying to pin all the blame on them all of a sudden. And then just more images of policing. And here's actually, what are we drinking? You sure about that? Arizona? I had a college student say to me, "Oh, it looks like you're drinking Four Locos." I'm like, "No, we're not drinking Four Locos. We're Four Locos up there. But we're not drinking Four Locos. We're drinking Arizona." A few minutes later, this young man gets pulled out by a gang task force officer. He pulls off his T-shirt to check for gang tattoos. He humiliates him. I say, "Officer, what happens?" And he said, "It looked like you guys are drinking in public." Right? So this pretense policing, stop and frisk, right, to try to prevent crime, but it just creates this resentment in young people, and it empowers them to lead life in the wrong direction sometimes, right? This young man, Tyrell, here in Oakland, in 5th grade, he's harassed by police for being too tall. I said, "What do you mean by that, Tyrell?" He said, I would be like walking to school, right? And the officer would be like, "Hey, come here, I'm going to search you." "Officer, I'm in 5th grade. Why are you going to search? You don't look like you're in 5th grade. You're too tall. You look like a drug dealer. Let me search you." And he got searched and searched and searched. Then in 6th grade, his teacher calls the cops on him. In 8th grade, he decides to sell drugs because he says, if I'm going to be treated as a criminal, I might as well reap the benefits. Mother's evicted from public housing because we don't invest in public housing. And she ends up on the street trying to survive. She ends up addicted to crack. I record 21 police stops just while I'm hanging out with him in 3 years. That's not, when I ask him, how often does police stop you? He doesn't want to tell me. It's like, I lost track. And on this day, he's mourning for his little cousin who was shot by the crack dealer in the alley there. More policing pictures. Policing. Now let's start talking about solutions. In Missouri, they spend $48,000 per year at juvenile facilities for young people. That's a lot of money, right? It's a lot. 48,000? It's a lot. California, we spend more than the national average to lock up one young person. And this is the treatment in California. Concrete walls. In Missouri, it looks like a regular school. California, we got them locked down, isolated. In Missouri, you have, this isn't a prison guard. This is a counselor teaching the young person about conflict resolution. He's a peacemaker. Because when the youngsters get into fights, he intervenes and he builds peace, makes a peace circle. It works sometimes it doesn't. But you don't have prison guards having to pepper spray them down to solve the problem. So restorative justice, like I mentioned earlier, it's an indigenous idea, right? It's about sustainability. And it's a movement, and let's not forget this. It's a movement going back to the freedom struggles of the 1960s. The Black Panther Party, they were demanding dignity. Right? Dignity in the way they were treated by authority figures. And so you have people that leave a legacy behind. Angela Davis, Fania Davis, and then now, right, Fania Davis is doing this restorative justice work. Important work. So what happens is, right, when the people demand freedom, restorative justice, free breakfast for children, right, in the 1960s, the police force looks like this. By 1995, it's looking like this. And by Occupy Oakland, it's looking like this. This is where our money is going. And so it's going to take more than one person with a legacy, or more than 2 or 3 organizations, more than just Pueblo doing a lot of this kind of work. Right? It's going to take a lot more. I remember hanging out on the streets of Oakland on 94th and International when I was 15, 16 years old. Middle of the night, 2 in the morning, on a school night, dropped out of school. And there was moments when people would drive by and shoot at us, and I was so out of it that I just throw up my hands like I didn't even care. And I remember wishing in those late night conversations with my friends, right, those of us that were gang threats, right, to law enforcement, right, I remember having conversations about one day wanting people to come together in this part of Oakland to look out for us, to give us a space, to give us a voice, to hear us out. I didn't call it restorative justice, but I was dreaming about organizations and groups like the ones that you now run. And so I've seen progress in Oakland. Still young people are out there left behind, but there's a lot of promise. So Oakland's not at risk, is what? At promise. Oakland has a lot of promise, right? And it's about benchmarking those best practices throughout this town, those organizations that are already doing great work, and the people already doing great work to continue moving forward. So I'm very, very excited. So this is a project, sorry. This is sorry about that. So I miss home. But I did a project in Santa Barbara for a few years, and then this past summer, I went into LA. I went into Watts. I'm looking for places like home, and young people like the young people at home. So I went into Watts this summer with a group of my students, and we developed a curriculum. We called it GRIT, Generating Resilience to Inspire Transformation. And this is a clip of some of the stuff that we did with these young people.
You see, young people, sometimes they're found in struggle. And sometimes in that struggle, you find unhealthy ways to forget about that struggle, to deal with that struggle. Drugs, streets, the hustle, abuse, self-abuse, self-hate, self-doubt, not believing in yourself, not
you want to tell us what you see over? Hey, Don Francisco, William. Yeah, you get good. Hey, let's go to the left leg. Yeah, go on from it, and let's go to the left leg.
It was funny because it was a Friday the 13th too. So it was like a really bad lesson for us, how for us ended up going to jail. You know, they took our mugshot pictures, they took our fingerprints. So it was just like, dang. Then we had to go to court. My mom was like really, really mad at me, my dad. And I got kicked out for that night, but I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna go back to my house. I just got kicked out. And going to jail and everything we did that day, I think it was just, I don't regret it. I think it was just funny that day. Yeah. It's something that you'll remember forever. You made it to the camp? Okay. I want to. You want to? Just to see what it's like? I know you're tough. I know you can handle it. But you ever seen on TV or YouTube how they process chickens and other animals? The slaughterhouse? Oh, yeah. It's like a slaughterhouse. You know, where there's bodies and bodies and bodies stacked on each other. And the way they set you guys up, the way they put you in there, stack you up like that on each other, it makes you do animalistic things that you wouldn't ordinarily do if you weren't locked away. Why don't you do this? Why don't you become a college professor that studies jail, and then you get to go visit without having to be an inmate? It's going to take us to change us. We don't speak for our people.
So, thank you. So, where did I get grit? Where did I get the curriculum? From my PhD at Berkeley? Did Berkeley give me that curriculum? You tell me. No. Okay. Did UCSB give me that curriculum? The streets of Oakland gave me that curriculum. You gave me that curriculum. And let me tell you why. My brother had to pick me up from juvie a couple of times on San Leandro, 150th. You remember that, JT? And every time he picked me up, he was like, what's up? I'm like, what's up? And I didn't want to walk in front of him. But I did, because he would slow down and make me walk in front of him. And then, boom! Right? But I was too caught up, you know? And it took him, his support. It took my teacher's support. It took her connecting me with college students like Martin that I was standing next to in the video. He was a UC Berkeley student. He mentored me. He rented a place and he illegally painted all these murals of like Aztec gods and pyramids on his walls. And he called it Chicano headquarters. And it was a refuge for me. And we would hang out there, and he was broke. But he would always have grilled cheese sandwiches. And he'd give me his last grilled cheese sandwich because he knew that he was investing in me. He was from East LA. We had nothing in common. But he knew that I was a kid that was in need, that needed that connection. and he brought it to me. And then all kinds of other college students started to mentor me. And then before you know it, Proposition 187 kicks in. And these college students are mentoring us, right? Anti-immigrant proposition. They start mentoring us, guiding us, teaching us about our history, teaching us about our culture. We're hanging out downtown Oakland. Was it Local 28? Local 28 and the Union. And we're having meetings, and then we start to organize walkouts, high school walkouts. And we walk out of all our high schools, and we take over the BART system. And we end up in Hayward at a park, and there's norteños and sureños there. And we brought brown bandanas. And we hit up the norteños, we hit up the sureños. And we said, will you trade them in just for the day? That was a hard job. But we took all the bandanas, we tied them all together. They all were wearing brown bandanas for the day. It empowered us. And that's what I'm saying, like, it's the power of grassroots movements. It's the power of youth workers. It's the power of mentors. It's the power of teachers. This teacher knew she couldn't connect with me too much, so she connected me with a younger group of students, college students. So I ended up graduating from high school on time and with my class with the support of this network. And right when I'm about to graduate, my teacher says to me, Victor, I knew you could do it. Now it's time to go to college. College, me? Man, what is this teacher smoking, thinking I'm going to college? I want to be a mechanic. She talked to the college students. They convinced me, give it a shot. I applied. I get a letter. Congratulations, you've been admitted to California State University, Hayward. The next paragraph read, you've been admitted under probationary status. I said, probation? I'm already on probation. That don't matter. But they were talking about a different kind of probation. Like if you get a C or below, they'll kick you out because they're giving you a second chance. They're allowing you to live a second lifetime. You see? That's what we should advocate for. For institutions to allow our children to live 2 lifetimes or 3 lifetimes, second chances, third chances. That's important. Because Adolescent Development 101 teaches us that in order to develop into a healthy adult, one as a juvenile must be able to commit mistakes so that they can learn from their mistakes and take that into adulthood. But we're no longer allowing our children to learn from their mistakes because we're stripping them away, if not into the incarceration system, into other systems. 40% of black children in this state have been referred to CPS. Part of it is they need that support, the family does. Part of it is there's an eye on the family as already backwards, so let's already report them, right? So our communities are suffering, and so in that suffering, people like you emerge, teachers, grassroots organizers, college students, people, community members. You emerge and you support us and you nurture us. And guess what? You never know that you're planting a seed, and you never know how long that seed's going to take to grow. You see young people who are at promise. They're like oysters. Okay? They're only going to open up when they're ready. So you're throwing programs at them, restorative justice this, special program this, summer job this. And then you're like, it didn't work. You turn your back. Little oyster opens up, and you ain't there. It's about consistent support. throwing consistent support at young people. I was with my teacher this morning. Her name's Flora Russ, Miss Russ, interviewing her. And she keeps denying she helped me. That's how cool she is. She's like, I didn't help you. She's like, I just was there. I was consistent. And I realized her philosophy. It's not about pitying people. Oh, you poor thing. Let me help you. She was just like consistent. When she knew about my friend who passed away, when she knew I was in and out of juvie, she said, Victor, I'll be here for you when you're ready to change your life around, but you have to do the work. So she was consistent with me. And she looked at me this morning. We were having coffee, and she started to cry. She goes, the first time ever I see her emotional, she says, I really did help you. No, I really did help you change your life. And she started crying. I got it on video. I wish I could have put it up for you to see. And then I videotaped. I was like, say it again. It's like, well, I don't have tears in my eyes anymore, but here you go. Right? So if we're going to help people, let's help people. Let's be consistent. Let's grow as a community. Those of us that have historical memory of Oakland, and I don't claim to have it because some of you in here are veterans that have been here since the freedom struggles and before. Some of you have been here since the Great Migrations. And you know what I'm talking about. From the South to work in the industries. From the South of the United States. And now the Great Migrations are from the South of Central America, right? So there's always migration here. And we come together as a community and we build. And those of you with the historical knowledge of Oakland know that Oakland is growing a critical mass of educated professionals that are about making the right kind of change. And it's about getting together and not dividing ourselves because we're still not, a huge number. So it's a basic model, right? These at-risk young people that we demand that institutions, whether it's families, educating families, to treat them as if they're at promise, right? To police and schools, right? That we all come together and treat young people as if they're at promise. Yes, we hold them accountable, but it's a different model of doing business. It's about bringing them back in to the community, and that's what ultimately restorative justice is about. So, when I was a little kid, we used to, I don't even know where this free cheese came from. Remember the free yellow cheese, a big block of it? Government cheese. I remember waiting in line at the welfare line in North Oakland. You know that welfare line over there? North Oakland? How many of you know about the North Oakland one? Yeah, okay, one of you. All right. Two of you. I remember waiting in line over there and just all of a sudden we end up with this big block of yellow cheese. We were looking for like maybe a 2-story house up in the Oakland Hills. But they gave us cheese. And you know what we do with this cheese? That's what you would do with it. Let me tell you what we would do with it. We'd go to the store, buy tortillas, and not give the money to Too Short. We'd buy tortillas, and we would make quesadillas. So young people out there, middle schoolers, high schoolers, when life gives you cheese, you make quesadillas. But on the real, what that means, okay, all right, let me be multicultural here. When life gives you cheese, make grilled cheese sandwiches. Okay. But this is about resilience. We have this uncle, and he used to collect bottles, and I would help him because the aluminum cans everyone collects, so there's bottles at the restaurants, and the bottles would break, and I would go help him, and we would start bleeding. Our hands would start bleeding from sorting them, broken bottles, and I'd be terrified, and I'd stop working, and I look at him, and he's still working, and he's bleeding, and he's still working, and he looks at me and he says, "Mijo, estamos buscando vida." That's hard to translate. But a young man that I worked with in LA, he was facing 15 years to life. I told him this story. He goes, and he was African American. And I go, "Do you know what that means?" He goes, "Yeah, it's like making something out of nothing." That's the best translation I've gotten from people, right? Buscando vida, right? Seeking life, like surviving. Making something out of nothing. And if we are experts at one thing, is making something out of nothing. And you're going to tell me that my culture, that these young people's culture is a culture of poverty, a culture of violence, a culture that doesn't value education? It's a culture of resilience. It's a culture of grit, of survival, of making something out of nothing, buscando vida, and we have to be cultural translators for them. And we have to hold institutions accountable to also translate for them. At the end of the day, it's about dignity. If we can enhance young people's dignity, we're going to get far. But if we systematically strip them of their dignity, it's not going to work. So we have to enhance young people's dignity to prevent crime, violence, health compromising behaviors, and to start the process of transformation. It worked for me. It worked for Randy. It's working for young people that are changing, that someone reached out to them and gave them a sense of dignity and humanity and let them know that we do care for them as a community, that we'll stand up for them, and that we will learn from them about their resilience and translate for them how to use that in the conventional world. Thank you very much for your time.
So we're going to get into some questions and answers, about 15 minutes or so, and please keep the stories that are already stewing inside of you that you have, keep them in mind. We're going to play with them later. We have a group of youth artists who are going to do a short improvisational performance based on this, and we're going to ask you to join by sharing the stories that are in you. But for right now, what we have are two mics set up? One mic set up over there. Anything else you got to announce? Yeah? Okay, let's get into it. Stay for the performance segment. We would really love to see you.
So, I want to introduce bass piece up again. Oh, questions and answers. I'm sorry.
So if you have questions, you could just line up at the mic over here. If you have any questions for Dr. Rios.
That's my friend. She was at one of my presentations recently. I remember you. Hi. Hey. Where was it? What presentation was it?
Santa Rosa? No, Walnut Creek.
Walnut Creek. Shh, don't tell them I've been in Walnut Creek.
Oh, yeah, no, Concord. Near Concord. Most of the audience was from Concord, guys. Okay, my name is Mary McElroy, and I'd like to know what we're doing to end the school-to-prison pipeline, because I'm tired of teaching kids resilience to deal with a system that beats it out of them to begin with. There are 5 major programs in California that have been blocked. The wonderful Career Academy program that gets every kid to learn through careers. When UC took it over and started giving kids college prep to learn through careers, in came No Child Left Behind, which had some good parts, by the way, but put those kids in an extra period of English, an extra period of math, and no career, bye-bye kids. So all the kids that wanted to be mechanics dropped out. Okay, we had wonderful bilingual education, dual immersion, gets all kids to gifted education in K months. As soon as those test scores hit gifted education, guns came along. Lori Olson, one of the top ESL researchers in the nation, came out with a new thing for little kids, the SEAL program. Bilingual test scores hit, boom, all of a sudden Sierra Lamar was kidnapped. Uh-oh. There has been intimidation, there has been violence, there have been kidnappings to keep these programs blocked. Linda Darling Hammond, she got to be the spokesperson for Obama, got on TV, had an academy leadership program to teach all principals how to deal with at-risk kids effectively, get all kids effective education, not just teach to the high kids. Boom, their test scores were discredited. And in Eastside San Jose, Aida Waukes's QTEL program and 2 of my programs were blocked by test score sabotage. They told the whole state, these programs don't work. They blocked it themselves and then blamed it on us. There is systematic blocking of the programs for these students to begin with. And it's got to be recognized and stood up and stopped. We shouldn't have to teach these kids resilience and grit. We should do our best job to give them the best we got coming in the door. We shouldn't have to ask them. They come with culture, they come with language, they come with pride, they come with families. And so I'd like to know
So the question,
what you'd like to do
question.
to support the getting rid of all that.
I got the question. This is a very important debate that you bring up. And it's a debate we have in the community, and it's like, do we sort of fight at a grassroots level to change the system structurally because it's messed up? Capitalism is messed up. You know, this is why, you know, our children are suffering, because there's no viable jobs, right? Because the welfare system was dismantled in 1996 by a Democratic president, Bill Clinton, because we're not investing in infrastructure, because we're investing more on prisons than we do on public education. But if I continue to stress out about structural violence and capitalism, I'm going to go into personally a spiral of depression. I'm just going to hide somewhere and cry myself to death. So on a day-to-day basis, right, as we find movements to change the system in a long-term plan, right, or even change policy, and there's some orgs in Oakland that are doing great work that on a quarterly basis are pushing the state capitol to change specific policies related to juvenile justice. George Galvez has been involved in that. Courage. Anyone else has been involved in that? Raise your hand. No? Okay. But they're on a quarterly basis, right, pushing, advocating, and making changes in juvenile policy and reform at a political level. My point is that let's have a 2-tier strategy. One is changing the system, radically altering it, utopia, right? Imagining that another world is possible, and at the same time on a day-to-day basis, working at a very micro level to change one heart at a time, and that's how we'll persist.
Good afternoon, Dr. Rios. I'm an educator over at LPS, and I believe some of our students are going to come visit you. We're excited to have that. I read a book by Paul Tuff, How Children Succeed, and he talks about grit and these things, but he comes at it from a different angle, from the KIP model, from folks studying at this university level. How do we instill grit in young people? What is your take on the grit movement? It seems like character education is like coming back. We're kind of moving towards this grit model. Is it the same thing that you're talking about? And if it's not, where do you think they got it wrong?
I think that it's definitely being grit, resilience, restorative justice is being co-opted. People are making a lot of money off of it. People are making careers off of it. At the end of the day, it comes down to that traditional model of it takes a village to raise a child, holding everyone accountable for their actions. I'm talking about authority figures, holding police accountable, holding teachers accountable, holding parents accountable, holding community workers account, and the children themselves, right? And so for me, the way I look at the model is I'm not going to go out there and tell young people, hey, the system is completely against you, therefore, like the assumption is don't do anything about, like there's nothing you could do about it. I'm going to show up and say, like Martin Luther King Jr. said. He said, it might not be your fault that you've fallen on your face, but it's your responsibility to pick yourself back up, right? And so we have to balance that conversation between teaching, pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality, which grit can lean towards if we're not careful, right? And then also beating young people up with this idea that the system's completely against them, right? So for me, it's about finding that balance. And some people, I don't want to say that my program has it right or my philosophy about it has it right, but the way I approach it, again, is to try to transform a young person's heart at a time. And then the next level, and this is critical, look at these wonderful poets, youth organizers that are here with a political conscience, multicultural education, ethnic studies connected to it, so that they then become critical change makers, so that they go out and advocate to change the system.
Good afternoon. Patrick Caceres, manager of the Oakland Citizens Police Review Board. Your story is very personal to me as a graduate of UC Berkeley and also as an individual that's made quesadillas out of government cheese. So, thank you for your personal story and connecting with the young people here. My question is, there's a lot of young Oakland police officers that are joining the academy, and the city's continuously trying to recruit and get more police officers. What should we be teaching these new police officers about the youth in Oakland, and for them to keep in mind as they try to do and interact with community policing for them?
Yeah, so I think we should teach police grit. Like we're all like, teachers tell me, like, I go, talk to teachers and they're like, oh, these kids need emotional intelligence education. And I'm like, no, you need emotional intelligence education, lady. And it's like, they don't like it when I say that. But we all need emotional intelligence education. We all need character development. We all need grit. Because at the end of the day, police officers have a stressful job. Teachers have a stressful job. And at the end of the day, they need to know how to handle themselves and ground themselves when it's time to make critical decisions, like not shooting a young black man that's already handcuffed, or not calling the police on a boy that threw a spitball at you. It's important for us to build resilience and grit in institutional actors as well, and not just young people, because then we're just putting all the weight on them. So I think like Malcolm Gladwell's work, you should read that. He does a lot of research on this, and he talks about how cops could be retrained from going to 80% shooting a black man to like 20%, which is the natural curve of error for shooting anyone. Yeah, I know, it's now we're talking like but this language, but it's important, right, that we retrain everyone. Multicultural education shouldn't just be for our children, it should be for everyone, right?
Hi, thank you for being here. And first, my name is Rosie Torres, and I followed Noel Gallo in that I'm on the school board, District 5, first term, first year down, 3 to go. And for me, when I heard the first speaker talk about the different programs being cut, as a criminal defense attorney in the court with 99.9% people of color arrested, regardless to the percent in population, it made me sick year after year as an attorney. But the people in Sacramento are the ones that are controlling the budget. The people in Sacramento, the state education, all of those people in office are the ones who can change the budget to prison, the budget to schools, the budget for mental health. So getting people in this room and the people that they associate with elected to local, state, federal, that to me is how we stop cutting the programs that are working. 100% graduation. Curtis Acosta in Arizona, his ethnic study program. 100% graduation, they deem it anti-American. So that's for me the answer, right? Who's controlling that policy? But my question for you is, when you had the triangle, the triad up there of school, police, and family, as a school board member, for me, what I'm trying to understand, change in the school district is so slow, right? Great people, small percentage. Then the masses, just kind of asleep at the wheel maybe, because the system's been that way for so long. But the families is what I want to understand. What can you offer me as I meet with families, students, immigrant populations here in Oakland, especially in my District 5? I have the most, well, everybody always says I have the most diverse schools. They're all very diverse, 60 languages spoken, so on and so forth. So how can you offer me some advice about working with the parents who often tell me, I can't control my son, he's bigger than me now, he wants to smoke weed all day and watch TV and not go to school. I can't make him go to school. My mother couldn't make me go to school. I dropped out in 9th grade. And I said, you can't make me go to school, Mom. You have 3 jobs, so your ass can't make me go to school because I'm staying right here and I watch TV all day. I'm an attorney now, but I had that history too. So the fact is, she wouldn't make me go to school. And my clients tell me the same thing. I can't make Mijo go to school because he's so big and he could hit me or he could beat me up. So help me understand how I can work with families in my term to make them stand up and push their kids.
Okay. A ver, hay familias aquí, papás que son invitados como padres, no como profesionales, como padres. There's part of the answer right there. Are there families here that you were invited as a parent to show up to this? There's part of the answer. We need, as a community, to have forums like this. Of course, not so academic. Maybe don't bring a college professor to talk to them. For real. To work with them at their level. We feed them. How many of you got to go to summer camp growing up? Raise your hand. Wow. You guys are like middle-class Oaklanders. Man, I never got to go to no summer camp. Actually, I don't know anyone that did growing up. But you see, my point is this. When you go to summer camp, because I experienced it with my daughters. They go to summer camp. I have 13-year-old daughters, beautiful little girls. They look just like their daddy. Just kidding, they look like Mom. And they go to summer and they're just like elated. Their minds are transformed. They're thinking, big thoughts about changing the world and feeding the homeless and going into, it's refreshing them. And that's what we did with Grit and Watts. We brought these youngsters out to the ropes courses. We expose them. If we can't take our children to summer camp because it's too expensive, then let's bring summer camp to them. Right? And it's the same with our parents. If we can't take them, right, somewhere, then we bring it to them. And it's important for us to take serious parent education that is about quality time spent with parents. Because at the end of the day, teachers can't control kids. Cops can't control unruly kids, right? They just can arrest them, but they can't control them. So at the end of the day, it's about us knowing that we just have to plant seeds into children, and that when they're ready, like the lawyer, right, in you was ready, not at 17 because you were watching novelas. What were you watching? Gilligan's Island. My bad. My brother watched Gilligan's Island all the time. I'm like, put on cartoons. Shut up, I'm watching Gilligan's Island. And so you're watching Gilligan's Island, and little did you know you would one day be a prominent lawyer and a prominent member of the Oakland political community. And we didn't know when that seed was going to grow, when it was going to sprout. You know, my other brother, he didn't change his life around until he was like 26. 10 years on the streets, addicted to everything and just doing bad stuff, in and out of jail. And it took 10 years of us struggling with him. And it clicked. You know, we never know when it's going to click. And that's important to teach parents, law enforcement, teachers, all of us to learn. It's not about making people click, right? It's about letting people know that we're there for them when that light bulb turns on.
Hi, my name is Christy Philhart.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. For the last couple of people that have questions, if you can keep it really short and concise, we're running short on time. So if you can cut straight to the question, please do, because we're running short on time. Thank you so much in advance.
Oh, you know what? I just forgot. I forgot I have a flight out of San Francisco at 6 p.m. So I still got time, though. Still got time.
I'm a service provider for Upward Bound and Mills Educational Talent Search here in Oakland. I have students who've been shot walking home from our program. I have students who face racist comments from their teachers every day. I have students who are constantly harassed by the police, by the people who they've been told. Are there support networks? How do I support my students when they come in and they can't even do their homework? They come in to us, do their homework, they come in to get help, and I'm a tutor and service provider, and instead, I mean, very gladly, I've become kind of a mentor and counselor for these students, but you know, there's so much more that they need, and how do I, as someone who's trying to work with Oakland youth and who goes into high schools and works with these students one-on-one, how can I help or provide resources to students who are already so resilient and are basically just trying to survive? What can I do to help my students themselves?
Wow, that's a question that's way bigger than me, and but it's not bigger than the people in this room, right? And I think that it's going to take a community conversation to answer that. And I actually asked my teacher this morning that same question: what advice do you have for young teachers? And she said two things. She said, be consistent, and then she said, don't leave the teaching profession too early. So that's from her. And I'm sorry that it's incomplete, but it will take community conversations to really answer that, right? Yeah.
Oh, sorry to cut you off again, but we're just going to take one more question. We're really short on time. We have to be out of the space at 4, so we're going to take one more question so we can move on to the next piece. I'm so sorry.
Hi, my name is Christine Gerchow. I'm a PhD candidate at Berkeley, and I'm a psychologist trainee at Juvenile Hall in Contra Costa County. I like what you said about dignity. At Contra Costa County, one thing we're doing is having the young residents on our 8 units prepare letters advocating for what they want the federal government to do in response to President Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative. So I was wondering, what are your hopes from that initiative since he's bringing awareness to this issue?
Yeah, you know, at first I was pessimistic about it, but then I've been learning a lot lately that policy from the top down is not the only solution, but it does support the people that are trying to focus on these initiatives. So there's been a lot of grassroots and even statewide initiatives on boys and men of color, and for it to now be supported from the top down, I do see some hope. I do see that programming, particularly related to empowerment, sort of learning about the sort of the right way of proving one's manhood, right? So if there's such a thing, right? But like being like a feminist male, right? Those kinds of programs, right? And then multicultural, you know, ethnic studies. Education for these boys and males of color. So I see some hope from the top down. The trickle down is always real skim, but I definitely see that there is hope to really creating these small empowerment communities and circles like the Harlem Children's Zone. I see more of those coming. I see the pendulum swinging I see restorative justice really making, it's going to be a slow swing. It's been swinging really slow. But I'm telling you, now I'm an outsider, unfortunately, of Oakland. Every time I come back, I see more vibrancy, more action, more organizers, more intellects from the community, and that really, really inspires me. So, I don't want to say that the change is happening now, but I do see it coming. Thank you all very much.
Hello. So good afternoon, everyone. Could I have the Bay Peace Youth assemble up on stage? My name is Tatiana. Thank you, Dr. Rios. Thank you so much. I hope you can stay for part of this. I work with an organization, all of us work with an organization called Bay Peace, Better Alternatives for Youth. My background is actually in restorative justice and bridging theater arts and creative expression. And what we're about to do is a creative segment that will integrate stories from you as community members, as educators, as parents, as youth, as soldiers in this struggle. What it is, since we don't have a lot of time, is going to be a sampler, a little sample of a bigger initiative called the Oakland Listening Sessions, where politicians and those who are running for elected office will have an opportunity to witness and listen from community members, specifically around violence both in the community and by the state, and what those connections are. They're called the Oakland Listening Sessions, and the way that we are going to elevate these stories from the community is through creative arts, theater of the oppressed, playback theater, some storytelling, and spoken word. So I first want to introduce my amazing team. You've already met T.
T. LeJean.
My name is Sharif.
Brian.
Cherry.
Willanona. Jasmine. And I will pass it over to Tilajan, who is going to facilitate something called Fluid Sculptures. How many artists do we have in the room? How many actors? How many performers? I see some familiar faces, and what's exciting about this beautiful auditorium at Castlemont is that it is huge. And usually we're not performing in front of such a large group. One of the things we do is train in public speaking, feeling comfortable with ourselves, coming into our own bodies, embodiment, physical work, through our stories and what's alive for us right now. So inspired by Dr. Rios' presentation, and inspired by our own lives and struggles, we are going to represent some stuff back to you. Just maybe one or two folks from the audience, since we don't have a lot of time. So here you go.
All right, cool. So I'm going to explain what's about to happen. And we got like 15 minutes, so it's going to happen quick. And I want to say, folks are like trickling out and stuff. And if Victor Rios had, used his time all the way up to 4, they'd still be here. But they got busy lives apparently, right? But the folks that are still here, it's important that y'all are here, because how many, we all came to see or listen to Victor Rios speak. But how often do we come to hear our community, folks that aren't the ones that are on the podium, you feel me? And so with Bay Peace, what we want to do with whatever we do, it's important to us that we get our audience and our community engaged with what we do. So I'm going to invite y'all up here to come and talk to me and the rest of everybody else about what came up for you when Victor Rios was speaking. Takeaways, and if you have a story to tell that came up while you were listening to his speech, please share that with us, because we all think that storytelling is also important. So a hand if somebody's feeling particularly inspired. If something came up for you while Victor was speaking, if you have a story to tell, something you want to share with the audience, please come and share that with us up on stage. Free book for this young lady right here for being the first person to come up. Can I get your name? Mikaela? Cool. You have a seat right here, Mikaela. So what's about to happen is Mikaela, I'm going to talk to her. She's going to tell me what came up for her, her story, whatever it may be. And our Bay Peace young folks are going to listen, and they are going to play back improvisationally what they heard for them. So we got the verbal storytelling, but then we're also going to have the visual storytelling for you all too. So clap it up for Mikaela again. So, Michaela, what came up?
So oh, when Dr. Rios was talking about making quesadillas out of government cheese, I was thinking about the different things that my mom did to make that happen when I was a kid. And he also said that when, did you ever go to summer camp? And no, we didn't go to summer camp, but my mom would take a big trash can and fill it up with water every morning during the summer, and we would go swimming in the trash can. And like my sisters and I, we would like line up outside, outside of the trash can, and we would all pretend this was like a swimming pool. We even had like little goggles. And we'd like get so excited, it's time to go swimming, like after the water heated up. And we would put on our swimming suits and our goggles and take turns. Like, I don't know what we were doing in the trash can. Like, we weren't swimming, but we called it swimming. Like, let's go swimming. And I don't know, we were swimming in a trash can, but it was like, that was my summer camp. And I didn't realize that we were actually not swimming. So, it's like, that just reminded me of something that my mom did to change, to give me memories of my summer.
What did it mean
Back then and
to you? Yeah, back then, in retrospect.
oh my, it really, that was something to look forward to. And so it was my summer camp, that was, we weren't saying it ironically, like, let's go swimming, haha, like, it wasn't ironic. We really thought we were swimming. Like, we weren't. I still don't swim that well. Like, don't put me in the ocean. Like, I'm afraid, like, to go to the deep end of the pool because, like, I'm used to swimming, like, in, like, a trash can, So, anyway, so, like, I used to tell people I would go swimming. And that's kind of ridiculous when they would say, oh, like, where is that? Where would you go? I'm like, no, we would just fill up the trash can with water. But anyway, but I think when I told people that later, they're like, I would laugh too. It's funny. It's like, but it wasn't ironic. It's just, anyway, so I don't know. I appreciate that my mom did a lot of things like that to give us the experience of, I guess I was a little delusional after that about what swimming actually was. So, maybe it confused me a little, but at the time, that was my happy childhood.
One more question.
Yeah.
Is there something that you could say to your mom if she was here? What would you say?
Oh.
I'll repeat the question. Can you repeat the question?
Oh, he asked what would I say to my mom if she was here, and I would say thanks for thinking of fun ways to make our childhood special, and a lot of it led to great confusions in my later life about about like what was normal, but it also led to me having, I suppose, unique stories like this to tell and special memories, and so.
Thanks for sharing that. That was a beautiful story of making something out of nothing, right? Babies, young folks, do y'all feel prepared and equipped to do this? All right, cool. One at a time. Do your thing and let us know what stood out for y'all.
Mom, you taught me how to create my own happiness. Mom, you taught me how to create my own happiness. Mom, you taught me how to create my own happiness. Mom, you taught me how to create my own happiness. Mom, you taught me how to create my own happiness. Mom, you taught me how to create my own happiness. Mom, you taught me how to create my own happiness. Mom, you taught me how to create my own happiness.
By making a childhood special, you can have a whole big dream. By making a
Mija, ahí está el bote de la basura. Campar, ¿qué? Mija, ahí está el bote de la basura. Campar, ¿qué? Ahí está el bote de la basura. Want you out of freeze?
By making a child.
Freeze. So, when I bring the mic to you, I want you to repeat your sound and movements to everybody so that we can give it 2 times for me, okay?
I don't know a lot, but I'm
Can we clap it up for? I want to ask Michaela, can you share with us what stood out to you the most in this little presentation?
Your comment? I mean, the way you moved even? That was just like my mom. You said, I don't know what, but I can still do this, I think, right? That's like exactly. My mom is constantly saying, I don't know what. And then she has, she fills that in later with something. Like, I don't know how I can help you, but I'll do this. Like, that was exactly my mom.
Anything else?
Also, I don't speak Spanish that well, so I don't know exactly what you said.
You want to share what you said, Brian?
What I said was
Camping?
oh yeah, it was like a mom telling you like, what? Like, you want to go camping? No, church is right here.
No.
Beautiful. Can I ask you, Tatiana, why you chose to do what you did?
Oh, what I did is I saw Cherry talking to her mom. What were you saying?
You taught me how to create my own
You
happiness.
taught me how to create my own happiness, and I wanted to step in as a mom and be like, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to give you this. And I'm not sure what this was, maybe love, maybe what my understanding of community was. I wanted to fill in the mom's voice because all of these pieces were kind of relating to her. And then just thinking about mothers in our society.
Beautiful. Can we clap it up for everybody up here tonight? All right, so.
Thank you, Micaela. Thank you. Yeah, so let's bring Alberto up to the stage. And one of the reasons this is so beautiful, we don't have a chance to interview everybody up here, but it's kind of this mutual sharing back and forth. So we have a teller that is sharing something deep and vulnerable, and then we have performers who are picking pieces of that story. But the reason that they pick a particular element is because they're coming from their own background. Something resonated, something popped off in their head from their own history, and so it's this kind of creative way of mutual sharing and exchange, and I just believe in this so much. And if we had more time, we would maybe even build a scene based off of these fluid sculptures. But yeah, let's hear Alberto's story.
Yeah, Alberto, let's hear what came up for you.
So for me, what came up was when Dr. Rios was talking about politicians being behind a lot of this idea of the fear of crime. And when I was coming to this event, I didn't know that Noel Gaia was going to be here, so it was kind of confusing to me that we have this politician who's been pushing a lot for this gang injunctions and youth curfews. So that was the first thing that came to mind, but it also brought memories of me. One of my memories of when I got pulled over by the police was I'm a graduate from UC Davis. I'm a teacher in East Oakland at Fruit Valley High School and at a Rice High School. But when I was getting ready to graduate, and my mom, she works in Sacramento, and I was leaving Davis from my car, and they had just passed that cell phone law. And I was pulling into my mom's work, and I was like 15 feet away from parking, and I called my mom, hey mom, I'm outside. Because she had my graduation gown that was mailed for her, so I was going to her work to pick it up. And as I looked in my rearview mirror, I see the sirens going. And so as my mom is coming out to give me a graduation gown, she sees me, getting criminalized. Here I am a UC Davis graduate, and I'm getting, a citation in front of my mom's work. And so I just keep on thinking about this fear that's being created, that's being pushed behind these laws.
I feel like that was enough for you.
I think we should get a little more. There's a couple people up here.
Well, how about in just what's your reflection on that experience?
That was like I don't know, like I just had never felt that I was subhuman until that moment when, that was like my first time getting pulled over, and my mom had to be there to witness it. And not only my mom, but also her colleagues. There's lots of windows in this office, and here I am in this officer. She doesn't know the context behind my situation, and that's like when we're explaining about this criminalization of youth. There's not a lot of context. I could be arrested in certain cities, like in Sacramento and West Sac, where they have youth curfew and dating judges. I could be arrested for wearing red shoes, for walking down, past certain alleys.
How can we can we make that context clear? How do we discover ways so that folks understand that context, so they approach situations in a way where they care about the context before they start taking certain actions? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's, instead of just going straight into the punishment, you could ask, why? Like, they could ask me, like, why was I on my phone? I said, oh, I just, wanted to get my mom real quick. I didn't want to bother her. I'm just trying to pick up my graduation gown. But she didn't care while I was on the phone. Like, there's no reason, no care for, my person or my actions, what I was doing at that particular time. So I think there should be maybe more push for like a care for like why is this person out at night? Why are they doing the things that they're doing? Trying to look at the root issue.
Thank you. I agree with you. Clap it up for them. Y'all take it away.
You're worth nothing. We can throw you out right now, today.
The system is made to bring us down.
You're worth nothing. We can throw you out right now.
The system is made for us to
You're worth
push us
nothing.
down, but we're gonna strive and make it. The system
Oh,
is
he's at
made
risk.
to
You need
push
to go
us
get
down,
him.
but we're gonna strive and make it.
I didn't do
Oh,
nothing.
he's
The
at risk.
system
You need
is
to go
made
get
to push
him.
us down, but we're gonna strive.
You're worth nothing. We can throw you away today.
At risk, you need to go get him.
You're worth nothing. You're worth
Freeze.
nothing.
We need to go get him.
So we're gonna break this down again.
The system is made to push us down, but we're gonna strive and make it. The system is made to push us down, but we're gonna strive and make it.
I got these new red shoes. Fuck, I just got rid of them. I got these new red shoes. Fuck, I just got rid of them.
You're worth nothing. You're trash. We can throw you away right now, today. You're worth nothing. We can throw you away right now.
At risk, you need to go get him. At risk, you need to go get him.
I'll get him.
I didn't do nothing.
I'll get him.
I didn't do nothing.
That was good. What stood out to you?
For me, the one that stood out was Tatiana when she was stomping on the ground, saying you're nothing, and also the at-risk teen who I didn't do nothing because I felt like, I'm just trying to pick up my graduation gown, and here I am, and now I have to pay like a $200 whatever ticket, for trying to pick up my gown. So.
Cool. And Tatiana, can I ask you again why you chose to do what you did?
Oh, I'm a survivor of gang violence, and the way the police treated me and my friends and my homies that they thought were gang members, it doesn't even matter. It was like right that. I heard that right there, like you're trash if you're not worth anything. I didn't know until this happened that I could be actually indispensable, disposable. What? Yeah, like just not worth anything. And so I just wanted to vocalize that because Rios, it's like, okay, throw me,
And Cherry, yours was super unique. Like, you got your chair, like elevated yourself. Can you share why you did what you did, or why you post what you said?
So the reason why I got on the chair is I was thinking like of a crowd of people, and then it's like, oh, I'm profiling one person, and he was a person of color, like ethnicity, and like at risk, he looking at me because I might do something, and so automatically that means I'm going to jail. Like, I might do something, so I go to jail.
Cool. Yeah. Tatiana just said it would be important to ask you what it felt like to be in that role just now.
Well, I grew up in Oakland, so it felt like my path is similar, I guess, to hers. So it's all like having a sense of direction.
Thank you for sharing that. It's hard.
I appreciate
Can
it.
you clap it up for our amazing storyteller too?